Hey everybody, it's your buddy Pete. Pete A. Turner, the executive producer and host of the Break It Down show. I just got off my rower. I'm rowing for Borders, Rowers Without Borders, for a charity, for Doctors Without Borders. And I got to tell you, man, rowing has changed me in the last few months. I've dropped, 30 pounds or so, and just getting rock hard and solid and in shape and feeling great. So I'm just trying to celebrate that a little bit for those of you out there trying to fight the bulge, fight depression and all those things. I got to tell you right now, for me, rowing has been an absolute godsend, and I love it. You all are also a godsend to me, and I appreciate each and every one of you who support the show. If you're new to this show, hey, welcome. Check us out. We do a lot around here. There's 1,000 episodes behind us already, and if you want to really support us, the best way to do is go to the YouTube page. Just type in Pete A. Turner, and YouTube should come up, and subscribe there. That would be really, really helpful. Every time someone watches a video on YouTube, I get paid, a penny or two each time. And there's a lot of videos. And so the more you guys do that, the more we can elevate the show, the more the show becomes discoverable on YouTube, and the more cash we can bring in, and the more we can support what all the folks over here are doing. You can also go to PayPal. And if you go to breakitdownshow.com, you hit the PayPal link there. You can create your own subscription. And if you want me to do something, like, here's the way I'll say it. First off, it's like Patreon. Like, hey, you should start a Patreon. I don't need Patreon. I need you. I need you and me, and this is how you can support me. You go to PayPal, hit that link, put a little bit of money in. You can do a one-time thing. You can do a monthly thing. It can be $1. It can be $5. I mean, if 1,000 people put in $10 a month, well, I mean, that's a living right there. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is build it up that way and keep this thing as it's always been, for us, by us. And I'm always thinking about you guys. Whatever country you're in, we feature a lot of different people from a lot of different places, a lot of different walks of life, a lot of different disciplines and thoughts and ideas. And I do my best to continue to spread that around. I think you really dig it. We have some incredible guests coming up. Sebastian Younger is coming up. We have a fascinating book, a biography of, this is incredible. Jim Browning, the guy who invented like a lot of the guns that the military uses and everything else. And he's this brilliant engineering mind. And he's not really been treated with a proper biography, and I can't wait to have that on. Tomorrow we got 2 sailors who were solo sailors, who were long distance sailors, and these guys are bananas, and yet they live this life of adventure that we all love. We all want to get on that sailboat and see. And this guy did a figure 8, which you can learn about tomorrow on the live side. You can always watch that on YouTube and on Facebook, and I'll put up the regular show, probably in July sometime. All right. Who's coming on today? Tim Cruickshank. He is a former Navy SEAL, and he has become an entrepreneur, and him and some partners have built 2 different companies. One is called Bone Frog Coffee, and one is called Bone Frog Cellars. The wine is excellent, and the coffee is good too. I've bought it myself. I'm going to have a promotional code up. I'm not sure when we're going to actually have it, but hopefully we'll have it soon, and then you guys can get 5% off. Part of the revenue from the coffee goes to military charities. One of them supports, and I met Tim through Andrews and Wilson. They said, hey, you got to meet Tim. He's doing some great things. We know you love charity, and his company is doing that. And so I have Jeff Wilson on the show. I always get Jeff and Brian. I'm always slow down when I say their names. I have Jeff coming on the show, and we talk about what Tim's doing and how he's doing it, why he's doing it, and it's important to support the warriors that go out there, and particularly their families and all the different things. And also, it looks like we may do some stuff with Save the Brave. And also, if you go on there, you can buy coffee in support of Wilson and Andrews, the Sons of Valor series that's coming out in just a few weeks. And tomorrow's episode is going to feature Andrews and Wilson talking about Sons of Valor with me. So you can do all these things. That's a lot of talking, Pete. Would you just shut up and let the show start? Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Save the Brave, savethebrave.org. You can always help us. We're doing great things. Help us to continue to do that. Let me know how you want to help. PeterBreakItDownShow.com. That's the best way. All right, one more thing to say to you. Here comes Tim Cruickshank.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, everyone, this is Tim Cruickshank, and you're watching The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, this is super cool. We tried this about 2 weeks ago, but the internet doesn't always abide, and so we thought we'd come at this and give it a full swing. The good news is this time Tim has sent me wine from Bone Frog Cellars, and I'm drinking right here in the middle of the day. I did go swimming just a few minutes ago, so
You gotta earn
this
it.
wine is free.
This was going to go great. When Pete day drinks, and you know you got a good interview coming up.
Yes, yeah. It's funny. One of the things that in the podcast world, there's a lot of podcasters who are veterans, and most of us are undiscovered to each other. And the other day, someone said, "Hey, you should get on this list of best podcasts." And I said, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll try that." And so I sent an email off to this person, and they said, "We like to promote veteran podcasts." And I'm like, "How much more veteran do you got to be?" I am a veteran. I've been doing this forever, and I have 1,000 episodes basically, and hundreds of them have to be veterans. Why do we do that to ourselves? Do you think, Tim, Jeff?
I don't know. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for having me here.
It's always
My
fun.
pleasure. It's neat to be able to have these conversations, and of course, for those who don't know, Jeff Wilson's here. Jeff is part of the. You're on a writing team, and Jeff and Brian write incredible stories. And look at this. Not only did I get wine and a hat from Tim, but I also got.
There it is. And looks good on you, man. Looks good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look what I've got.
What? Look at that.
I brought props. I have all kinds of stuff. These are great books, by the way. And, if you haven't read these books by Andrews and Wilson, this is a real deal. Having lived this life and, reading these books, these guys know what they're talking about. That's definitely a book that you need to read.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
You were a Navy SEAL. What makes it? When you watch certain military movies, the other day I watched the Outpost, and I'm like, yeah, they got that pretty right. Actually, I actually got a little emotional because you know what's coming, and they're so bad at the coin part of it, and it kills me because it's not their fault. It's the training is shit, and so we're not prepared. So when you see it and it's right, you know it. What did Jeff and Brian do that makes it right, Tim?
The depth that they go to, you can tell they've done their research, and Jeff has lived the life. He's been there, and he's worked with the SEAL teams, and he's been deployed with them, and he understands the dynamics of the teams. He understands the missions. He writes in a way like, when you're reading a book or you're watching a movie or something like that, either somebody is advising them or they've done their homework. And the books that Brian Andrews and Jeff Wilson write are spot on. This is the real deal. And if you get a chance to read these things, I mean, seriously, they're amazing. So I can't say enough good things about what they're doing.
Well, that's really kind of you, Tim. I will tell you that one of the ways we write the books the way we do is because we've been in the community. And we feel a tremendous obligation to honor the people that we've served with, the people that are still out there on the pointy tip of the spear, of course, but also those that, we've lost. All of us on this interview have lost teammates. And so there's a special obligation as a writer to get the relationships right. We don't care about the technology and all that. You can fictionalize all that. But the men, the women, the relationships between them, the brotherhood, we want to get that right because we think that's important. And that's, to be honest, why I agreed to co-host with Pete today, talking to you, because it's so amazing to see guys from the community giving back to the community. The brotherhood is a real thing. You see it on a movie. If you've never been part of it, it sounds like a catchphrase. It sounds like a buzz, but it's not. It's a real thing. And I want to ask you, because people that don't know about Bone Frog Cellars is an amazing vineyard, which, by the way, makes the best Merlot I've ever had. I'm a wine snob.
Thank you.
The people that know me, that means a lot if I say it. So
thanks, Jeff.
I'm no expert, but I'll tell you, it's the best Merlot I've ever had. And Merlot is not my favorite grape. Their cab is amazing, but they also have Bone Frog Coffee, which Brian now will not drink anything else. He used to make a coffee run once a day over to Starbucks. He doesn't do that anymore. He's got Bone Frog at home and he just makes it himself. But what I think is cool about what you guys are doing is, first, that entrepreneurial spirit, right? That, it's pretty rare to find a team guy who retires and is, working in something that's, you know, fairly menial or whatever. They always have this high aspiration. Like Eli Crane, a friend of both of ours, we always joke that he, you know, he went from being a team guy to working in a bottle cap factory. Well, his bottle cap factory was on Shark Tank, and he has a, you know, multi-million-dollar business that he CEOs. So tell us a little bit about your motivation in terms of your relationship, your ongoing relationship with the brotherhood in the community, and how you try to use this business venture for the brotherhood. That's what I found most fascinating about what you guys do.
This venture for me is so personal. Having served 25 years in the Navy in the capacity that I did, I say, you know, we came in to our platoons as teammates, but we left as brothers. I want to share that with the rest of the world so they understand what that means, the depth of what that means. This whole thing started for me at my retirement when I stood up there and looked out at all the people that showed up. And as I'm, you know, these Navy retirements, they're large and they're traditional and they're full of pomp and circumstance. But I got the opportunity to stand up there at the podium and talk to the people. And I looked at every one of them in the eye. And as I'm giving my talk, I'm remembering parts of the past. And being the corpsman, the medic for these guys for all those years, and remembering all that stuff, it hit me right then during my retirement that I felt like I was leaving people behind, and I wanted a way to give back to the community, to talk about the sacrifices that these men had given to their country for our freedom, for us. I want to say their names over and over so people remember their names, remember their legacies, and the tremendous sacrifices that they had for us. And so I created these companies where the labels themselves start a conversation that gives us the ability to talk about these amazing missions and tremendous human beings that sacrificed everything for us. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. And I used two mediums, coffee and wine, because, you know, we find ourselves oftentimes saying, hey, let's get together and have a cup of coffee. I'll meet you at whatever coffee place. Or let's get together for dinner and have this great dinner, and I'll bring a bottle of wine. And Jeff, when we put this thing down in the middle of the table and they see that Bone Frog image, they're like, the table stops. And they're like, what is that? And that starts the conversation of what we have going on, so we can talk about some of this stuff.
So that's, yeah. So that's everything he's saying is true. I've had a couple of bottles of this wine. It's an amazing label that does start a conversation. And, you know, you had said to me once before, you die twice, once when you die and once when people stop saying your name. You know, we watch on social media, everyone's got hashtag never forget, hashtag never forgotten. And that's awesome as a hashtag. But you guys are walking that out, and I got to say, it's hugely impressive. I want to talk for a minute about the other side of this, though, right? So it's great to not be forgotten, but when you're downrange, you're not worried about whether you're going to be forgotten. You're going to worry about whether your kids are going to be okay, whether your wife is going to be okay. If God forbid you're the one that doesn't come home this time.
Exactly.
And you guys do a lot for that. I was hoping you might tell us a little bit about your commitment to supporting, you know, NSW specific charities or special operations charities, because and maybe start with your story, because you were touched in a very personal way by one of these organizations, right?
Yeah. So back a few years, I was forward deployed. I was overseas, and my wife was having some medical issues, and the Navy SEAL Foundation stepped in and helped in a major way. They got her to Bethesda, which is now Walter Reed. They got her there, and they helped pay for that, and they helped with the kids. And for me, it was such a huge relief that my family was taken care of, and I didn't have to worry about that. And I always remembered that. And they wanted, for me, that was the first foundation I wanted to give back to when I started this whole process, was to be able to give back to the foundation that supports active duty and their families, because like you said, when guys are forward, they want to be focused on their job. And when everything's taken care of at home and you know that your wife and kids are taken care of, it's a sense of relief and calmness where you can now focus on moving forward and doing what you need to do.
And these guys, Pete, you know, I know you know this, that they're supporting not just, they do support Navy SEAL Foundation, but they're supporting, what is it now, a half a dozen different charities. Pete knows that Brian and I are very passionate about the SEAL Legacy Foundation because a couple of my teammates are involved in the board, and Commander McGinnis he's just doing amazing work. That is an organization that started in the wake of August 6, 2011, of course. But the neat thing about these organizations is that there's overlap, but there's also sort of specialization, just like you see in teams, right? Everybody's a door kicker, everybody's an assaulter, but you got a 18 Delta like yourself, a combat medic. You've got a guy who's the comms dude. You have a guy who is the best breacher. And so you have these subspecializations, and it's been neat over the last 20 years to see that happen in the charitable organizations. Yeah, Navy SEAL Foundation does some of the stuff that SEAL Legacy does, but they do some stuff that SEAL Legacy doesn't, and SEAL Legacy does some stuff that they don't. And so it's neat that you guys identified that, and you spread the wealth that you're able to generate for them out in a way that's going to impact the entire community. I find that really, really inspiring. Something only an operator would think to do, right?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's we give back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. We also give back to the Navy SEALs Fund. We give back to the SEAL Veteran Foundation. We're in conversations with the SEAL Family Foundation. Our goal, you guys, is to give back to every one of them because they all do different things. We want to be able to take care of the kids' scholarships. We want to take care of the veterans that have issues after they get out. We want to take care of the active duty, the families, you name it, across the board. We want to help. It's why we started. And it's my way of now being on the other side as being a retired civilian, giving back to the foundations that still support the community so it can move forward. And I always say, you know, the bigger we get, the more we can help. It comes from the heart, and I consider them my family, and I will do everything I can to help them.
Yeah, the never left behind ethos shouldn't end in Oceana. It shouldn't end in San Diego, right? It should continue on forever and ever. That's what the brotherhood really means.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I want to jump in here and give some color to some of this relationship stuff you're talking about, because it's important to understand, like, thank you for your service, like, but thank my daughter, because she didn't have a dad for years. And like, thankfully, I'm in pretty good shape overall in terms of being a dad. But I think about Kent and Stacy, who wasn't even supposed to deploy, but went because someone had to go. The guy did not have to go, was actually probably supposed to be on a really sweet assignment because he's done several back-to-back. And senior NCO, bomb tech, and he goes to Syria and gets blown up and damn near dies, but doesn't. And so he's a quadriplegic, lost his voice, lost an eye. And imagine the strain on him. I mean, who but people like the Navy SEAL Fund and all those partnered funds to help him get through, because there's never enough support for someone like that. There's never enough support they already had an exceptional needs child in that family. And so what about that mom? How did, you know, they're all depending on her. And if something happens to her, what happened? I mean, there's so many areas where we think, oh, well, this, you know, the Navy SEAL, you know, is dead. We'll give the family $100,000. That'll never replace that dude, you know. And if you can't work, or if you struggle to hold down a real job, there is so much help needed in these things. Thank God someone takes these missions on, you know.
And it's the right people. That's what's exciting. So I think America, there's so many great things about our country, but one of them is we are a patriotic, grateful nation. You know, it's a small percentage of people that actually serve, but the people that don't serve in their own way. They like to give back to the people, but what they don't know is how to do that. And so you'll find these organizations, and I say SEAL Legacy only because it's the one I'm most familiar with. You know, it's run by former operators. These are team guys that run this organization because they know what the need is. And so it's nice for people to know that they can give money and 95 cents on the dollar is going to go to a widow or go to a scholarship fund. And then these other things, you know, some of these organizations have very intimate personal things. For example, Seal Legacy has a program where if a guy is gone forever or if he's deployed, there are people that can volunteer to step in to go to the daddy-daughter dance, to attend the baseball game and cheer the kid on and stuff like that. That's things that people don't think about. Like you're saying, you know, oh, I'll write a check. Well, that's great. And that's really appreciated. But there's so much more to it than that. And these organizations are really getting good at diversifying and meeting all the needs of these families. It's really inspiring.
People, I think nowadays, they want to connect. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves, right? And especially during the time of COVID, where we're all kind of pulled apart and separated from each other, they're looking for these kind of things. Our company exists to shed light, to tell people, to start the conversation, to talk about these foundations that help the community in very specific ways. Some of the greatest times I've had with this company are just, you know, even when we're doing small shows and things where we're offering, you know, taste testing and things like that. The most fun part of it is talking to people and sharing these stories and seeing their eyes light up as they're starting to learn about some of this stuff that it just didn't know about. We take the labels and then tell the stories on the website. And so we try to get people to go to the website to find out more. And then we connect people with these different foundations, and we talk about what we're doing and use the labels to educate people. So it's been really rewarding and really fun. And my business partner and I say, you know, we've been doing this for a while now, and not one day has been work. We're never hitting the snooze button in the morning because we're excited to get up. And a lot of times I'll get a text from him at 2 a.m. and I'm still awake, and, you know, we're thinking the same thing. And, you know, so it's this collaborative effort to do this and to help people.
It's the Andrews and Wilson model.
Exactly.
We always say, Brian and I feel like we have, over the years, we've gotten to the point where we're just like this one organism with one giant brain separated by 1,000 miles. Because of course he lives in Kansas and I'm in Florida. But yeah, it's when you can be in something that you love, partnered with someone that's a friend, you know, and we've enjoyed making friendships with you. I got a question for you. I know there's nothing makes a team guy more uncomfortable than talking about team guy stuff, but and I'm not going to ask you to tell some war story, I promise, because I promised you that before. But I do think it's interesting that, so when we met virtually, and I was interested in all the stuff you were doing, and then you sent me this bottle of wine, and I remember thinking, I really want to support these guys because they're doing such great stuff. This wine is going to suck. Like, it's just, this guy's he's a team guy, and I don't know who his partner is. They don't know anything about what this is going to be. And I'm such a wine guy that I was like dreading receiving this bottle of wine. And then the wine gets here, and it was literally the best bottle of Merlot I've ever had in my life. So here's my weird question for you, Tim. How is it that, how do you take the team ethos, you know, the special warfare ethos, and apply it to making wine, growing a coffee company, stuff like that? What is it about you guys that you can't possibly not do everything 125%? It's exhausting. It's exhausting to watch you guys.
That's funny. So I think that through our training, through Bud's training, it gives you all the skills that you need and the confidence to push yourself forward. It gives you that feeling that there's nothing you can't do. And as you spend your time in the SEAL teams, you're challenged repeatedly. And it's those challenges and learning from your experiences and your perspective that pushes you once you get out. I mean, I think you're fully equipped to do these things, whether you know how to make wine or something like that. You're still equipped with the skills to do it. And what I did, Jeff, was I partnered with somebody that understood the business In the Navy, we call them SMEs, or subject matter experts, right? And my business partner had he had extensive relationships within the wine industry. And so he introduced me to people that understood this. And we've come across a lot of very patriotic Americans that want to help and educate and teach. And we said to ourselves, we've got to create products that we can be proud of, that will not embarrass the community, that there's something that you can try and be very proud of because they're super high quality products. And so we went to great length to make sure that our wine was really good and our coffee is really good, because it reflects the community that we're talking about and representing.
Well, Pete's day drinking the wine right now. Pete, what do you think? What do you think of that one?
I love it. I actually finished my glass.
That's so
I wanted
great.
to ask you, we talk about the community quite a bit, and I had the good fortune of getting to hang out with Johnny Walker. And Johnny's my friend. He was my interpreter for a while. So a SEAL team left. I adopted him, and then he went back to the SEAL side. And when I see him, I just have this welling of joy because, one, he's here in America now instead of down and out and about to die all the time in Iraq. Yes. But two, he's also alive. That guy's supposed to be dead several times over.
Yeah.
I mean, his story is, if you guys haven't read Codename Johnny Walker, you should stop immediately, go to Amazon and go do that. And we'll still be talking. So it's fine. But the like that love, that joy that I see, like, because we did something impossible together. We both got out somehow with our necks still attached and, most of our body. I think he's missing a toe, but whatever. But this is what it is to be on, a team, right? I mean, the other thing I wanted to ask about to you guys especially is the CI community. We're a bunch of assholes. We're a bunch of dorks, and much like you all, we want to be silent professionals, but we mean like silent and invisible. So when I do things like talk about being a spy, they're like, hey, you can't say that stuff. You can't say that stuff. And I'm like, it's not up to me. Like, it's up to the enemy what I am. And if they think I'm there to collect information, guess what they call me? They don't call me an intelligence collector. So you just deal with the reality. So talk a little bit about that joy that comes from these relationships made in hard places, but then also talk about how the SEAL community especially has gotten really good at marketing what it is. There's no badge for what I do. I mean, there's an actual police badge thing, but there's no on your uniform kind of badge. And then the long tabbers don't embrace as much this leveraging of the time on, their teams. So what do you make of all of that community stuff, and talk about the love and how it's born in these hard times? Either one of you, by the way.
Yeah. So the story of Johnny Walker, I want to hit on that really quick, is amazing. I have read his book and I got to meet him. I didn't serve with him, but his story is amazing. And so for any of the listeners, if you have a chance to read his book, it is well worth it. The camaraderie part of it is fostered by these events that we put ourselves through. It starts in buds, where we go through something that's extremely difficult, but that process builds trust. And that trust carries over into your first platoon. And so even when you're a new guy in the platoon with a bunch of older guys, they know that they can trust you because you've been through the same process to get there. But that trust needs to be fostered. It needs to be built and continued as you deploy with your platoons and build a reputation. And those experiences that you have overseas in combat just help to continue to build that strong relationship or brotherhood. And it's interesting that, I look back at my experiences and I could tell you get to know these people so well. You can tell who it is by their silhouette in their dark, or you can tell by how they walk, or just the sound that they make, or these people that well. And it's those relationships, the brotherhood that will stick with me forever. And that's why I want to tell their stories, because these guys are doing amazing things out there on the battlefield that nobody knows about. And I want to talk about some of these epic battles and people and things that have been done to keep these memories and legacies alive of all of this. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I didn't, obviously I'm not a SEAL. I haven't been through BUDS. I got to work in the community and deploy in the community in a variety of roles. And you do see that intimacy with these guys. And I think that's the right word to use. It's an intimacy that you generally find in families who have a shared experience, and it's intentional. The Naval Special Warfare community, the Army SF community, they know that people bond through experience, both positive and negative. And I think when you look at a nation that has asked a community to be in continuous combat operations for 20 years, the depths of that bond have grown exponentially. And that was inevitable, because in addition to all of the things that they bond over in peacetime through high training and high intensity training and, short combat operations that we don't get to hear about, this idea of just being constantly in the rotation and sharing both victories that are incredible and indescribable, things that seemed impossible that you did and you did together. But on the flip side of that is sharing incredible loss, like we were talking earlier about Extortion 1-7. Having the shared experience of those victories and those losses form a bond that even your wife can't quite understand. You know what I mean? We were talking earlier about, family and the impact on family. I can tell you that families understand and don't understand. Like when I left Virginia Beach and went to the task force side of the world, my wife didn't understand. Like we had this conversation so many times. It was like, I don't understand. Like, you've been doing it. You've done it. You did your part. It's someone else's turn. And they think you're addicted to the job or the whatever. It's not that. It's almost a guilt. It's like, yeah, but there's other guys. And my teammates are still out there doing stuff. I can't be the guy sitting at home. If not me, who? We use buzzwords. Yes. If not me, who? But it's more than that. It's
right.
And I would say that to her. God, well, if all of us said that, then who is going to do the job?
Well, but you're right.
All of us aren't going to say that. It's really driven partly by that sense of patriotism and responsibility, but mostly by the intimacy of that brotherhood. The idea that if my brothers are still involved, how can I not be? How can I not be doing something to further the cause? And so I just think that intimacy that's born in battle and in the highs and lows and sharing family experiences and the birth of a child and being at their weddings, and it's just something that is an unbreakable bond. And it's something that people can't fully understand. And that's why it's neat that we have organizations like this, companies like this, that are telling the stories. And I'll make my plug for Johnny also. I never served with him downrange. I've known him for a couple of years since then. And I'll tell you what inspires me the most about Johnny. And I know both of you have probably had this conversation with him. He gets so pissed off when he sees people in America who don't appreciate what they have. Because when you read Johnny's book, and hopefully you will, you see what he came from, what he was willing to sacrifice for a dream that we all have in common, safety, security for your children, freedom. And he sees people here have it and not appreciate it. And you get a drink or two of Johnny Walker, you're going to hear some salty language about how spoiled and entitled some of us can be at times. He's a really, really neat guy, and the book is amazing. So yeah, I will echo both of y'all's endorsement.
That's right.
And I'm happy to say that Johnny Walker is no longer drinking. He has given it up, and it seems to have stuck. So good for Johnny on that. I want to make sure we give him credit where credit is due. You're right, though. He is honest, and he does not. He was blown away by Target when he first got here. Think about that. We walking in and out of Target and are never moved an inch. And that's what you have to realize. Like, that's how fortunate we are here. We can go to Target and it's like nothing to us. To him, it blew his mind.
It's beyond even what we did over there, right? Because, and he talks about this in his book, this idea that he would be working, doing combat operations nightly with a platoon of SEALs And 6 months later, they'd rotate out and the next group would come in. Well, while those guys are back doing training and catching up with their families and stuff, Johnny's still going out every night, or every other night, or how often, depending on what was going on. So it's almost overwhelming to imagine, as someone who's been in a fairly high intensity cycle for a few years, I can't imagine if those few years were continuous. That's insane. And that was his life. And of course, all the risk, his family, and he talks about all this in the book, the risk to his family and concerns for their safety. Of course, that's what he was fighting for, right? So inspiring story, fascinating guy. So I'm glad you brought that up, Pete.
Yeah. I want to talk about one other thing that kind of goes along with what we're talking about here. And I just thought of this, when we're going through training, they talk to us about thinking about other people, right? So as civilians and we're coming in, everybody kind of has a little self-centered and you think about yourself first. And they would teach you, think about your people first. So for example, you'd get up from the table to go get a drink, make sure you ask everybody at the table what you can get for them. When you start finding yourself in positions of leadership with your people, think of them first. And there was always this mantra of think of the guys, then take care of your gear, and then take care of yourself, always. And so when I get out and I'm a civilian now, that still plays in my mind. Take care of the guys, take care of your people first. Don't think about yourself. It's not about you. Think about your guys first, always. And that's kind of why we exist as a company. And it's what we do to talk about them, to give back to them, to help them and their families be healthy and prosper and be taken care of.
Well, that's a formula for success in anything, in business, in creative arts, like what Brian and I do. Brian and I talk all the time that ethos we got from our time in the military of mission and team before self always is very natural for us now. And so when we write together, people are always amazed that we could write so many books together for so long, because inevitably personalities flare and, you have a different idea and there's ego involved. We've never had that. There's people think we're making it up, but people ask in an interview, how do you decide who writes what and who gets credit for this and that? And it doesn't work that way. It's almost more we're all parents here. Wendy and I don't say, okay, well, you're in charge of Jack and Ashley, and I'll take Emma and, Connor. It doesn't work that way. There are kids, raise them together. It's not about credit. And so, I can't even tell you who wrote the first draft of certain chapters or whatever, because it's a team project. And what you find is that breeds success. Putting others before yourself, it turns out, is a formula for being highly successful in any endeavor you do, whether it's being a father, being a business leader, being a military member, or running a coffee business, writing books, doing a fantastic podcast. That's why you see these military people rise up to such successful things. It's what they learn in that community.
There's something in that. You're right. That, Jeff, when you and Brian get together and you work, you guys have passed the point of necessarily worrying about selling books. Now you have to keep up with the pace of writing more books because there's more demand. And it's not, you're not like, oh man, we've got to go out and make sure we make our quota of selling. You guys have figured a lot of that out. It's just that now the industry wants more, a different style, different things. And you guys are trying to meet that. You've got to do that by just through the repetition, the hard work, the constant evolution. And I think folks that work in the kind of environments that we worked in, you can't really under prepare. You have to always, you can't over prepare. You have to always work hard on trying to expand your skill set, become more resilient, all of these things. It never ends. But I suppose the negative to that, and this is my question for you, Tim, is how do you direct that? Look, if you left an SF guy alone in a cabin in Tennessee, there would be no trees around that cabin and there would be a new cabin built. How do you direct that energy in a healthy way so that you're balancing work life, better, but also directing your energy into something that's truly beneficial and not just smashing your head into the wall over and over again, trying to prove that you can put your head through a wall?
So what I tell myself every day is if I focus on the why am I doing this? None of it is work. It really isn't. And you can plan your day out and you can get everything done. But at the end of the day, if I keep focusing on the people and why I'm doing what I'm doing, it doesn't seem like work. And I feel like I can just keep going and going and going. That's how I manage it personally. And it's a great feeling that, you know, at the end of the day, when I feel like I've given back. Matter of fact, when I wrote the first check to the Navy SEAL Foundation, I went around and I'm holding it up and I'm showing my kids, and I was so proud. I had a lump in my throat and I'm like, I did it. I actually did it. We raised enough money with the sales of our products that I can give back. By far one of the best days. We've written several checks after that. That's what drives me. That's what keeps me up at night thinking of new ideas, of why I get up early in the morning and keep going. It literally makes all of this worth it, and why we're doing what we're doing. I love it.
Is the point of the companies 100% to donate to charity, or is there a profit motive in there too?
Well, of course, we want to make a profit. We do give part of our proceeds back. Right now, you know, we're still a fairly new company, and the bigger we get, the more we can give back. We're still investing heavily as we grow, so we're not taking paychecks. We invest back into the company so we can create our next new product, new label, add things onto the website, do our marketing, you know, all those things in a new startup business that you need to do that cost money. We got to keep reinvesting. So we're not taking paychecks right now. We are investing in the company to move it forward so we can do more good.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. I mean, it never ends. And then you said new products. We're talking more lines of coffee, more lines of wine. Are you going to go vertical, horizontal? What are you doing?
Yeah. So this next month we're bottling Chardonnay, which is really exciting. And I think I'm excited to get that out to you guys and have you try that. And, you know, it's
okay.
make you drink more wine. But the Chardonnay is fantastic. We're coming out with a light roast. And so the next label is going to be Zen Frog. And Zen Frog is something that I came up with for a mindset. It's something that we train, you know, staying calm in the midst of chaos. I like that. You're drinking a glass of wine there.
I got to run out so I can get some Chardonnay.
So Zen Frog represents a mindset, and it's really key for our leadership to stay calm because, you know, you've heard the phrase calm is contagious, but they look to you as a leader to maintain your calmness and have good sound leadership. And so that's what this next label is going to talk about. So we're super excited about rolling that out. And then we've got several more ideas that are coming down the line. So for wine, we've got a Chardonnay coming out next month, and then our 2019 Cab, and then our Merlot. And, you know, those have spent 18 months in French oak. And so this is a time-consuming process. You can't speed it up. So these next few months are going to be really exciting for us when we do more bottling and new labels and new products. And, you know, we just expanded on our gear. So we've got coffee cups, you know, these Bone Frog coffee cups. We're coming out with T-shirts, hats, you know, all these different products for people because that's good advertising for us, getting that out there so people ask the question, hey, what is that? And then, you know, we can start the conversation and talk about it. It's really exciting.
So you've got the Chardonnay for our Army colleagues. Or you have something coming out for the Air Force, something super sweet, maybe a seltzer, a hard seltzer.
Maybe a nice Pinot or something.
You know, there you go.
Huh?
One of those super sweat German wines would be perfect for our
ice wine,
Gewürztraminer.
Gewürztraminer. Yeah.
So
my dad is an Air Force veteran, so we do the Navy Air Force thing.
Oh yeah.
What's the Space Force drink going to be?
Ooh. I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
You can't leave those guys out.
Have any ideas for that?
Freeze dried wine.
Reconstitute with some Perrier or something.
Yes, yeah, because they're kind of Air Force. They're like the Army's grandkid, because we bore the Air Force, and then now they pooped out a Space Force kid. So
I love it. I love
it. Yeah, man, I love that you guys are doing this. I love that you're having success at it. Is it harder than you thought it would be to run two different companies and get all these things off the ground?
It's so funny because we joke around and we say, why start one business during a pandemic when you can start two, right?
Right.
So things would be a lot easier if restaurants were open and stores were open. We're mostly selling online right now because of that. We do have some retail accounts here locally. And once things start opening up, that's going to be a lot easier because we've got a lot of people that are interested in our products and getting that out there. But it's been difficult. When you start a company that has to do with alcohol, there's a lot of things that are involved in it, and it's really time consuming. Like I said, it takes time to make the wine. It's at a minimum an 18-month process, but really when you look at it, it's a much longer process of growing the grapes and creating the blends and all that goes with it, and all the licensing that had to get set up to ship across the United States and all that kind of stuff. So when you talk about the difficulty, yeah, it's difficult. It's not undoable. The further we get along and the stronger the foundation we build, the easier it's getting. And now we get to do the fun part, which is this kind of stuff, is talking about the products. I love this because I'm really excited about it and want to share this with everybody. I love talking about what we're doing.
And then one of the hardest, you can have the best wine in the world, but you have to get people to pay attention long enough to actually buy it and try it. I mean, wine can become very personal. We have a house wine that we always buy, and it's the go-to bottle, and it's hard to get us to buy anything else. So how do you deal with that part of it? I mean, as a SEAL, that's not exactly the first class you guys get. You can pick a lock, you can kick a door in, you can set charges and blow it up, but get 20,000 people to try your product. That's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. The biggest thing is just getting in front of an audience and being able to talk about it. I was amazed. So we had a local gun store here that invited us for the first time to just come and talk about our products. We couldn't serve the wine at the gun store, but we could serve our coffee. And as we were making coffees and just talking to people, you could see their eyes light up and ask questions. And it's when you get that connection with people, they want to buy your products. Once they taste the products, then they're hooked because they're really good products. But it's telling the story that's the most important part to me, because of everything that we've talked about, and sharing the stories of my friends and creating that legacy. When you go back thousands of years, and you look at different armies, Vikings, Romans, whatever it was, thousands of years ago, it always ended around a campfire or a dinner table where you would share a beverage and you would talk about these epic battles and stories and things that people did. And it was that repetitive storytelling that created history and legacies. And that's my intention with what we're doing, is to keep telling the stories, say their names, build this legacy of these guys that did so much. When you think about the sacrifice that they had, they have parents and wives and kids, and they gave everything for us and our freedom. And I think it's worth the time and effort to share this with our fellow Americans.
Amen.
Yeah. when you're ready to do a cognac or some kind of Schlieffen, I'd like that to be my brand. And that one goes out for all of us collectors who sat on a farmer's couch and drank that diesel and then had to try to drive their Humvee home in a combat zone.
Yeah.
Because that happened a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, like that in my job, I'm by regulations allowed to drink. And the military will give me booze to give out, to drink with other people. It's a very unique thing.
Yeah.
Not a bad job, Pete.
Not a bad job.
No.
Yeah. It can be a little bit crazy. But you think about how crazy that is, the difference between me and a logistician, who's like, why am I giving you this booze? And I'm like, because it's the law. You have to get it to me. Hilarious. I wanted to, so you're working on products, you're trying to develop these things. That's a thought process too. I mean, you say Chardonnay, that's an easy one. But as you get more established and you think about ice wine or blends or whatever it is,
right?
Is that you relying on your wine experts, or I don't know? I mean, again, it's all marketing. So how do you decide what's next?
So that's a really good question, and a lot of thought goes into it. And it kind of depends on the label and what kind of matches up. As we move forward here and make it through some of the first labels, I want to create an honor series. Those guys that maybe got the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, things like that, individual people that I put on labels and discuss. Higher end wines that are more collectible type items. I think that's one direction. And the other one is, Cabernet is one of the most popular wines. So that was an easy choice. And then Merlot. And then as we move forward with different varietals, they've got to match the thought process behind the labels themselves. Like Chardonnay is a great one for the Zen Frog, right? I think for women that made it through 2020 with the chaos that they had in their lives, the Zen Frog is going to speak to them in 2021, just bringing it all back together and adopting calmness as your reset mode as we continue through this year. It's a perfect one. So that's kind of how we look at these when we're choosing, different varietals for our labels.
I'm leaving room for Jeff in case he had a question. Are you stuck, Jeff? I thought you might be stuck.
No, I'm good. I'm just fantasizing about all these great wines I want to try.
I know. So yeah. I keep sending them to you to try them out.
I'll keep drinking them.
So what is that process like when you pick your vineyard? Because you guys aren't growing these yourselves. You're partnering with different vineyards to do this. Is it all, because you're Washington, right? That's where you are?
Yeah, Washington wines. And so actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another cool thing is talking about Washington wines. I have friends on the East Coast, especially North Carolina, and they are loving Washington wines. And they don't get a lot of it. Right now, the big one is California, the Napa wines, and those are everywhere. But as we start to introduce Washington wines, which I think, rival some of the California wines, they're fantastic wines. They're really, really good. And so we get to talk about Washington wine and the vineyards that they come from. And we actually source from some of the oldest vineyards in the state, which is really cool. We get to go down and look at them and walk the vineyards and look at the grapes and do that. So that's part of the process. And then sitting down with our winemaker and coming up with the blends that we want for each year is really, really fun. So that's a really cool thing.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Washington wines, even before I met you, Tim. Like I think that you guys have an amazing climate for wine growing and the right grapes, and like the Pinots that come up from there.
Oh yeah,
are incredible. So you're in the right place. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Oregon has always been known for their Pinot, and now Washington is starting to take over some of that, and really producing some excellent wines. So it's fun as this thing grows, and each year we get to look at, new varietals and adding in different things. There's a lot of art and science that goes into making a good quality wine. And, if you're really familiar with wine, it's that terroir, right? Of the climate, the soil, the everything that goes into it. The cool thing about grapes, and what I learned and didn't know, is the vineyards, the vines that do the best are the ones that struggle. And I'm like, I can relate to that. You got to let them have a little bit of a drought. You give them water just enough to keep them going, but they've got to struggle. And those are the ones that produce the best grapes. And I love that about winemaking.
And that's true in Pinots especially, right? I'm trying to remember. So there was a winemaker that Wendy and I had the opportunity to meet, and he was saying that Pinots in particular, he was a little more frank about it. He said, you got to piss a Pinot off. You got to really, really kick its ass to get it to be good. So, and so that idea of distressing it and having it forge through adversity, boy, that's a neat way to view it, especially coming from the special warfare community, right? Forge through adversity. There's a brand for you.
I know. And that was my favorite part of, as I sit and have these long conversations with our winemaker of the exact science that goes into making a wine. They really keep track of everything, the weather, the temperatures, the sunrise and set, the type of soil that it's growing in, which side of the mountain it's growing on or the hill. It's amazing. It's really great.
I had no idea that was a thing. I mean, I learned two really incredible things about agriculture today that I didn't realize. One was that you should wash off your citrus trees, because right now in Southern California is the time when you do that. And I thought, oh my God, of course, because they use solar panels to gather the sun. And so, of course, you want to wash. It never occurred to me, and it's so patently obvious. And then now with the wine, of course, I bet if it's too water filled, it has all kinds of crops that are like that, where you don't want too much water. You want just enough.
Exactly.
And why not? Yeah. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up, I was just sitting here thinking about this. We have a page on our website, and it kind of goes back to a previous conversation that we were having, that I wanted to create something to help out the brotherhood, right? Okay. So here's the thought process on this. When we're in a platoon or we're in the military in general, we have this camaraderie and we help each other out and we work synergistically with each other all the time to do great things. Why is it when we get out of the military, we all separate and go our own ways, right? Why does that happen? And I created this page on our website called Focal Point, and it brings together all those companies and people from different services as well to help each other out. We would never do this when we were still active duty or in a platoon together. We looked out for each other. We thought about each other. We took care of each other. And it's the same mindset on the outside. If I can bring people back together and help out other companies, veteran companies that are out there without wanting anything from them, but just to help them. And this is why I love Andrews and Wilson so much, because they have the same mindset that we do. And there's a lot of other companies out there that are like this. And I think if we all come together to help each other out, we can be so much stronger than we are individually.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I think that people that have served, Pete, you can relate to this too. I bet you don't even know you miss it until you find it again. Like, you hunger for that team camaraderie, that helping one another out, lifting each other up, going through it, forging the adversity together. Not that it's an adversity. The relationship we have with Bone Frog, it's just been nothing but a joy to try to help you guys out and do things with you. And we've got some fun projects, Pete will tell you about later, that we're working on together. But
yeah,
there's something special about partnering with other guys from the community, and you don't realize how much you missed it until you have it again. And that's why you keep doing it. Right. And so I love that you do that. I didn't know you guys had that going on. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I would say to all veterans that are out there listening to us right now, we can have what we had before while we were active duty. It doesn't have to go away when you retire or separate from the military. We can get together and help each other out like we did when we were active duty. We can do that now on the other side as civilians. Let's come together, promote each other, help each other, and we're all going to be stronger because of it. We can do so much more and help so many more people if we just unselfishly help each other out.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, go get your kids. I'm kicking you out of the studio. You got a heart out, and I'm going to close up here with Tim.
All right, man. Tim, I'll catch up with you, man. Great talking to you, brother.
Thank you so much. It was great seeing you, Jeff.
All right, guys. Thanks, Pete.
I kicked him out. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. Listen, everybody should go check out, if you just type in Bone Frog Coffee, that link is on the screen. If you're on the podcast side, look in the show notes, you'll see that there. And then bonefrogcellars.com, or just, again, look at the screen or go there. You know, the cool thing about this is that you're getting to try a new wine from a very known, well region. I mean, whether it's Washington or some other region, there's a lot of places to buy wine from now, and it's almost kind of fun to travel via wine. I've really enjoyed doing that recently myself as well. But definitely check out Bone Frog and see what Tim and the crew are doing, because you're buying wine with conscience, with some service, and these the stories that we encounter from our peers out there. It's really horrible. You don't want to have to deal with that. Let us go and take care of these people. Go buy the wine, and we'll go put the work in. And if you still want to help support some of these charities, you can reach out to me at peterbreakitdownshow.com, or reach out to Tim over at the Bone Frog site, and we can direct you towards those places, because they do need those dads to go to the daddy-daughter dance and all these other things. So there's always more work to do. Tim, any final thoughts or questions at all?
Well, first of all, Pete, thanks for having me on. And for everybody that is out there listening to this, I'm really appreciative and grateful. If you have a chance, please visit our websites. We'd love for you to be part of our team and to be able to talk to you and hear more about what we're doing to help the Naval Special Warfare community. Really appreciate it, Pete. Thank you so much.